So what brings you in today, Vianney?
I've been having some weird flashbacks. I'm not sure if they're dreams or it happened in real life.
How do you feel right now? Like, how's your state right now? Are you depressed? Are you happy? Like, how's your life going on right now?
I can't really concentrate. While I'm working or, just doing some schoolwork, I'm constantly thinking about it. I've been really depressed, honestly, stressed and sad.
It seems like your problem right now is that you've been abused as a child. And what I'm going to make you do is to go back into your memory and try to tell me what happened to you when you were a child, because this is not letting you progress with life.
Yeah. So the big question is, are repressed memories real or fiction? The definition of a repressed memory is a condition where a memory is unconsciously blocked by an individual due to high levels of stress or trauma contained in that memory.
From the article, The Lie That Tore My Family Apart, Meredith Maron talks about how she accused her father of sexually abusing her. She's a journalist, so she started out by trying to find the story about recovered memories, and then she created this whole thing that, oh wait, she also had these. A psychologist calls it creating hysteria. Due to all the false accusations, parents started to form this organization called False Memory Syndrome Foundation. Parents were being accused, a lot of them were being put to jail, and most of them, actually almost all of them, were innocent parents, and so they created this foundation in order to protect them from their children and from being put into jail.
From the article, The Reality of Repressed Memories, Elizabeth asks a question. She asks, how common are claims of repressed memory? According to her, it's not about the commonness of childhood sexual abuse, it's more about how often the abuse is recalled in the minds of adults. It varies. Some adults say that incest survivors have limited recall about their abuse. Half of all incest survivors do not remember the abuse at all. So another question she brings up is, what are memories like? The quality of memories vary. Some are very vivid and detailed, and some aren't. Some happen when you were a child and some happen when you were a teenager, which plays a big role when you become adult and you plan to go to therapy. Attending therapy plays a big role for patients claiming that they were sexually abused. For example, a case in Santa Clara County, California, a daughter suddenly remembered after 8 years that her father sexually abused of her. This happened and she repressed this memory after attending therapy. Sources that could affect memory are, for example, books. The Courage to Heal. Therapists usually say, if you are unable to remember any specific instance like the ones mentioned above, but still have a feeling that you did get abused, you probably did. These kind of statements usually trigger the patient to believe that they did get sexually abused, when in reality it was all maybe a dream or hallucinations or imagination.
Elizabeth Loftus and Katherine Ketchum wrote another article called The Myth of Repressed Memory, False Memories and Allegations of Sexual Abuse. This one was talking about therapy sessions. Actual therapists confess that they were able to make their patients believe certain things happened. They could alter situations and then the patient would be able to repeat it as if it was actually happening. these patients would go into these sessions with the ideology that they were confused on who they were depressed, they were in a vulnerable state, so they would come in with a who am I question and leave with how did I get this way? And that's where the therapist comes into play, because they backtrack into their life to figure out what actually happened. This confrontation was used by therapists in order for the patient to free themselves from whichever burden has happened when they were little. What makes these images so vivid and clear is TV shows today, like CSI, Law and Order, opens our minds up to how actual crime scenes happen. And these women, as they tell their story, they use gruesome images about how, like, their father or their even preschool teachers are convicted of doing these sexual abuses. Loftus says something has gone wrong with therapy, and the women are having trouble with differentiating between imagination and real memory. But then on paper, it shows that this actually did happen. This is called false memory syndrome, a condition in which a person's identity and interpersonal relationships are centered around a memory of traumatic experience, which is objectively false, but which a person strongly believes.
In the article, Science in the Memory Debate, people who are for repressed memory often say there is no research to date documenting a false memory syndrome, despite the widespread of the term. However, there is a study where people tried to attempt to evaluate the evidence for a specific FMS, but it failed to find evidence for a specific syndrome. Not to say that the evidence of essential true recovery memories does not rule out the possibility of essential false recovery memories. Wakefield, who is against repressed memories, says that people who undergo severe trauma remember it, which means there is no possible way that someone can undergo a circumstance where they are sexually abused and forget about it for a certain period of time and then come back to it and remember it. However, those who are for repressed memories say that there is no research that supports such an implication. And forgetting sexual abuse traumas are fairly common because they are willing to forget about that experience and not try to remember it at all because it will affect their lives in future. Supporters of repressed memories being false say that memories are not only false in detail but are false in essence. For example, if a child is exposed to anal rape and pornography of vaginal rape, later in life she will claim that she was vaginal raped. Concludes in her article, Science in the Memory Debate, that scientists should keep in mind that their input may be necessary but not sufficient. Individual cases will continue to deserve individual consideration.
In the article, Memory Abuse in Science, Kenneth Pope states that claims about false memory syndrome is similar to personality disorders. Most of the cases were women that were hostile, they were angry, and very paranoid. So that's part of their personality, and they would come up with these false memories in order to make sense of why they are feeling like this. The major problem that science is having is whether or not this is an actual behavior problem. And if it is, then it's something that needs to be diagnosed, not something that should be taken for real and for innocent people to be put under trial and for them to be sent to jail. Memory is a reconstructive process in which new details can be added to old images or old ideas. This is stated from the Science article. This is when science asks for third-party opinions. So, for example, if a woman says that her father had raped her 20 years ago, they would need to collect data from other people other than the father and the girl, because now this is becoming a situation. Is the father in denial? Is he guilty? And whether or not this girl has behavioral issues or if she's actually telling the truth.
According to Journal of Interpersonal of Violence, we do know that events of traumatic can be recalled accurately. Many factors, however, have been identified as affect accurate recall.